Originally, it was built where you see the arched porticos over here. That was the original, and she was an Austrian countess. She was born in I think 1889, and she married in Virginia, World War I veteran who ultimately passed away, and so she became a widow. And she had bounced around to different places in the United States with her husband. Salt Lake and California and whatnot, but she decided as a widow with 2 children to come to Boulder City because she heard that it was a great place to raise a family even back then. So that was just when the dam was being built, and so she's really a great success story. She built the first area the first building in Boulder City that was kind of in the free enterprise district. So it was owned by the federal government. The city was built for the federal government to house the dam workers, and it really wasn't about free enterprise until she advocated for that and got this first building. So she hired a contractor. She constructed that first building over here. You see where the archways are. And in 1931, on Christmas Day, she actually just had a get-together, but a couple of days later, it just kept going, and so she opened it for business. And it then became, over the next almost a century, or 7 decades or more, 8 decades or more, the longest continuing running business in Boulder City. And it was run as a cafe all that time. In 1932, she expanded it out. She had it on these parts right here, so you can even kind of see that the porticos went around the corner on the original, and they just got filled in. But so you would have seen porticos wrapping around that side right there originally, and so she added this part on and continued to do business for the next 10 years or so in Boulder City. Her health started failing her a little bit. She had heart issues, and so she moved around the country, went to the coast in California, but she still continued to own. She was one of the movers and shakers of all of southern Nevada throughout that time. She established numerous auxiliaries in Boulder City, and many of them were established right here in her own little building and in her own house over on 5th Street when she ultimately moved there. She actually lived in a tent while this was being built. Her daughter remembers living back by the kitchen equipment when it was still under construction. And so, but some of the auxiliaries, and I wrote down just a few things, so I'm going to refer to my notes. This is kind of my little napkin here, and it's appropriate for, I think, for the cafe that we're talking about, and I think for the business deal that happened here. But some of the things she did, she was either the founder or the co-founder of all of these things. Veterans of foreign wars, the American Legion, the March of Dimes for infantile paralysis, the Girl Scouts, the PTA, the school board in Boulder City, where she was the first and only woman that ever served on that. And she was a big advocate for expanding the school. She got the high school going with a gym and some other classrooms. She was a co-founder of our Chamber of Commerce that continues to this day. She was heavily involved in legislation of all sorts, smog control. She was a big impetus behind getting Nevada Southern University started, which ultimately became UNLV. She even ran for the assembly at one point and did not win, but she was always advocating for change. And one of the main things she advocated change for was to separate Boulder City, incorporate it, separate it from the federal government. And she led the charge to do that. And so in 1960, when that happened, guess who got the first deed to the first building in incorporated Boulder City? It wasn't a residence, it was these buildings here. She got it, and she paid something like $7,800 for that building. And you can construction costs back then, when she first did her original building, her electrical was like $12 or something like that. I think I saw in the file. So crazy. But of course, eventually this became the coffee cup, the world famous coffee cup. and it ran that way. It's changed owners for decades, but continued into the 2000s as the Coffee Cup until they moved down to the Happy Days Diner building over there. For a while, they were operating as Coffee Cup 1 and Coffee Cup 2, and then eventually became House Diner here. But great history, great lady, and I think more than just the building itself, because the building's changed over time. And it was a first commercial building in Boulder City, but it's changed. It's changed a lot over the years. It's not the original that it once was, but it's an important because it was the first, and it's important because of the lady that was the impetus for all of these changes in Boulder City. And so, like my little napkin here, the deal that was done, I kind of left you in suspense, although everybody I think already knows that Mr. Lawson, Charles Lawson, the current owner, has struck a deal with Dan Fox, and he's got his wife Kelly here and his son Matt here. Together, they, as you know, run Fox's Smokehouse Barbecue, and had a lot of things going on in Boulder City, and they run it as a family business, and I'm sure they're doing this as a family as well. But the story that Dan shared with me the other day was kind of a napkin type deal where Dan was catering events for Charles, and they just developed a relationship over the years, and he could fill you in on the details, but just over time they started having some dialogue about, hey, would you be interested in selling it? And they ultimately struck that deal. So I know it's not closed yet, the deal's still in the works. We're super optimistic that it's going to be great for Boulder City. To me, this is a victory for historic preservation, just because of all of the things I've just talked about, as well as for economic development in Boulder City. And it has brought, boarded up buildings. We don't like them, but just like the other boarded up buildings in Boulder City, it has brought dialogue. It has brought attention to the issues of historic preservation and economic development, and that's important for our city. Sometimes it takes that in the history of a city to make sure we don't forget what's happened here. So we don't yet know what's going to be built here. We don't know. I know that Dan has some ideas percolating in his mind, including maybe restoring some of the historic elements, but that remains to be seen. The deal needs to still close, but we're happy for you guys and that you were able to come together and do this, and happy that you could be a part of this momentous occasion in Boulder City. So I'm going to turn the time over to each of you. You want to start with Charles first?
Okay. Well, Mayor, thank you very much. I really just want to take the opportunity to clear just two things up. It's all positive, and the mayor touched on one of them. I'm not from Boulder City. Been in Vegas for 24 years, but I'm from, like all of us, most of us, somewhere else, in a small town. And so when I came to Boulder City and started the project that I was doing, it was a multi-year build out. It was millions of dollars. There were multiple buildings involved. But I came to Boulder City at a time that perhaps there were some challenges going on. I don't know, what does an outsider know? So after we got that restaurant open, it was an unorthodox experience compared to what I'm used to elsewhere. So it created some issues, and we weren't able to resolve those issues, but it was not the leadership of the town, it was the city hall. And that's all been worked out. Just like things get worked out in Washington or whatever state y'all are from, it got worked out. But it got worked out because everyone before me failed. So I had to go to the nuclear option, and the nuclear option was the plywood. I apologize to each and every person in the city of Boulder City that the plywood had to go up. I lied low. I wasn't out there trying to cause trouble because I knew it would be enough trouble on its own. But I've seen other cities do what this city is doing, and they've all failed. To this day, not one of them has recovered. I'm from Michigan. So remember the Midwest? It's full of failed towns. And a lot of those failed towns because of the leadership and because of bad communication or no communication between the people and the leaders. The leaders have been great. I think City Hall was a little stale and needed some changing. The mayor, Peggy, and everybody, Rich Shuman and everybody at City Hall, the leadership stepped up. I think you all can recall that because the city started stepping up. People from town got involved and started showing up at their city council meetings once the plywood went up. That's all I wanted to happen, is to get the dialogue going, especially after I bought this building. This is one of the coolest little buildings in a small town you could ever hope to own. It's quirky, it's built like a dinosaur, it's a great building. And this is the stuff I like, or I never would have come here to do it. Since I'm now rotating out, I couldn't be more proud to turn it over to a family like Dan has, Matt and Lori, Laura. Kelly, God, why am I stuck on Laura? I'm sorry. Kelly, I'm so sorry. But the reason I wasn't selling and they stayed in plywood, this is important for your neighbors to know, because I know that there have been a lot of accusations thrown around over the years against leaders or other people. I wish that never had started, and I wish it would stop, because it's not about, no one did anything wrong. This was just a town that got real stale in the way it was doing things, and was problematic for an outsider used to doing things what I consider a better way. Sorry. But they worked on it, and City Hall, I think, is far better off now. I think the townspeople are far better off now, because y'all have engaged, talked about the angry, tough, emotional issues that I may have brought to the forefront, but they were here before I got here. So I just want to thank the town for their patience, getting involved. Historic preservation, that's where I was trying to go, and then I'll shut up. It's the historic preservation that was the driver for me. I never would have bought the building if I didn't appreciate old historic buildings. I filed the demolition permit because in the time I put the boards up and the time I filed the permit, all the town was doing was fighting. Nobody was working on solutions. The leadership was trying, but City Hall still needed some changes. It got those changes thanks to the mayor's leadership. And it was a bitter pill, and I apologize for it. But I couldn't be happy. Well, I could be a little happier, but I'm mostly happy with what's happened. There's one thing I'm still not happy about, and since you're all here with your cameras and such, Mayor, I apologize, but I'm going to say it. I wish the people in this town would stop distrusting each other and stop thinking that everybody's out to get everybody else. Nobody's out to get anybody. We've all been basically on the same page, maintaining a small, quaint town, garden, lifestyle, place to live. A lot of nice ones up north, too. I really believe this is the best small town in all of Nevada. I genuinely believe that. So I just want to thank the town for putting up with it. It was necessary, and please stop fighting. One last comment and I'll shut up. This sign right here, the only reason I'm mentioning it is because I saw what's happened over the past 3 days since these signs went up, and it's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. We've got to stop jumping to conclusions and jumping immediately, as a town, jumping immediately into, oh, it's nefarious activity, people are coming to get us, we're all going to die. None of that is going on. I put that sign up, congratulated Woodburry, Shuman, and Peggy Leavitt because they were consistent voices during the 3 years of challenges. Plywood hasn't been the only challenge. The bypass, other businesses, having to rearrange some things. These three were a steady force during those 3 years of trying to bring people together. I don't want to divide people any further, and I know that the sign, surprisingly to me, the sign took on a negative connotation with the people because 2 people are left out of it. That was not a hit on the 2 people that were left out of it, and I wish the town wouldn't have taken it that way. It wasn't a hit on them. We all got to stop being so sensitive. Okay, nobody's out to get any of us. But these are the 3 people as a voter, citizen, and stakeholder that I think their leadership is what it should be in a small town. I don't think we need to keep dividing this town between the growthers and the non-growthers. Nobody's coming here to build 10,000 homes. The mayor won't let it. I've already asked. He said no. Okay? Not directly, but indirectly. Yeah, because I would like to see a little more growth, but it's not my town. It's not my town. I respect that the majority needs to rule on that, and the mayor is the one defending the town against these big developers who would like to come in. It's not like they're beating the door down. Everyone knows the deal out here in Boulder City. So if we could all just relax, dial it down a notch or two as a town, come together a little bit more. That sign was not meant to be decisive or divisive. Yet the town yet the signs lit the town up on fire this weekend on social media. That shouldn't happen. We have telephones. Call somebody. Get some questions answered. Brett called me. The mayor called me. Others called me. But some others did not call me. And so we had 3 days of really ugly comments. Very ugly comments. I was saving these buildings. I was never going to tear them down. It took the demo permit to get everybody angry enough to take torches to City Hall to get a conversation going on historic preservation. We have to preserve these buildings in one way or another with ordinances that are far more toothy than the ones I saw. It seems counterproductive to my own interests, but it's not. Brett knew me from the beginning. I was coming here to improve the town, not build subdivisions and tear everything down, okay? It went off the rails, but it got everybody's attention. Thank you. One last thing, come together more. Please come together more. I don't know the other two that aren't named here, okay? You haven't heard me going around town saying anything. I just didn't know them. But these three are the ones that made the difference for me. That's all. Last thing, if he's got a whole bunch more money, he can have Scratch House.
Thank you Charles. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We've got some definite plans for what we're going to do with this. We're just floating around with our family. I'm going to work with the city on this. And I want the city to work with us. It's not closed yet. Hopefully it'll be closed here in the next 20 days or so. And then once that's done, we're going to do something immediately with the building. And we're going to keep it historic and keep it Boulder City as possible. Thank you.
So we don't have much more, but I just want
I have one thing.
let me hone in on one last thing. Because I know you said one last thing about 12 times.
I know.
Yeah? Right?
I know.
Go ahead.
All right. This is for the cameras. Now, I don't know that it's I presume it's within my rights to do this. I'm very open and honest. The historic committee arranged, when I bought the building, to memorialize it, consistent with what Boulder City, and we all want Boulder City to stand for. So even though I never got to put this on the building, I'm going to show it to you in a second because it's a pretty one. Since Dan is the new owner, I would like to pass this on because it doesn't belong with me, it belongs with the building. Dan?
Well, Charles, thank you very much. All right.
Show the camera. So I'm sure he'll find a great place for that somewhere on the face. And I am also going to work on, the mayor and I are going to talk, and we're going to find a way to improve the looks of the Scratch House building. And I also am going to put some effort into getting that building now into the hands of somebody with a long-term plan, just like that.
So that's one of the things I just wanted to wrap it up with is I believe you will be seeing the boards coming down or at least being made pretty in the near future. So this is a victory again for historic preservation and economic development. It's also a victory for collaborative working together. That's the theme of everything you've heard today is people just working together to make things happen. And as Charles said, that's what Boulder City needs to do to continue to make economic development and historic preservation be successful in Boulder City. Couldn't be more pleased to have anybody other than the Foxes as the new owners of this building. I hope the deal goes through. And so thank you for coming today. Great day. And I'm sure they'll be around to answer questions.
Let's all be their first customers when they open.
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Can't wait. I'm all good at my end. So if you need anything, let me know. And you're going to have fun going through this building. It was a hoot going through. We've done most of the, all the structural work's done. But it was a hoot going through it. There was a lot of stuff in there. So, Dan, what are you opening? Come on, pressure.
Well, we're going to open up the new Fox Smokehouse Barbecue September, October. That's first on the agenda, getting that one open. We are going to just get this one up to par, get it looking good. But that's my first priority. Is
That's the old Casa Flores.
the old Casa Flores. September, October is our timeline.
All right, so if you want a coming soon banner or sign or something to, in the interim, to help this look better before stuff comes down, but to let people know what's coming, that there's activity versus just private property signs, let me know. I'll be happy to print up anything you need, and we'll start beautifying.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
By the way, that flag says it's on the National Register of Historic Places.
Yes.
Which it is. It has been for a long time.
You get too much older, Dan.